Good evening, and welcome to the City Council, Norman Utilities Authority, Norman Municipal Authority, and Norman Tax Increment Finance Authority meeting of April 9th, 2019. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Bierman.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Castleberry. Councilmember Hickman.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Here.
Councilmember Scott. Mayor Miller.
Here. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 is approval of the City Council special session minutes of February 19th, 2019. City Council special session meetings of March 26th, City Council Norman Utilities Authority, Norman Municipal Authority, and Norman Tax Increment Finance Authority minutes of March 26th, and City Council special session minutes of April 2nd. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Raise your right hands. Opposed, same sign. That was unanimous. Item number 4 is a proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Norman. I will entertain a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
That was I'm sorry. All those in favor, raise your right hands. Opposed, same sign. That was unanimous. Where's the proclamation? Okay. This is a proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming the month of April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Norman. Whereas sexual assault affects women, children, and men of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds. Whereas, in addition to the immediate physical and emotional costs, sexual assault may also have associated consequences of post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, depression, homelessness, eating disorders, and suicide. Whereas sexual assault can be devastating not only for the survivor, but also for the family and friends of the survivor. And whereas no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault on their own, but we can work together to educate our entire population about what can be done to prevent sexual assault, support victims and survivors and their significant others, and increase support for agencies providing services to victim survivors. And whereas public awareness is needed to improve responses of friends, family members, and community professions so they can help victims access supportive resources and engage the criminal justice system. And whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing sexual violence. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Norman. And at this time, would Courtney Foster, who is the Director of the Rape and Crisis Center. Thank you for the important work you do. Would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Mayor and City Council. With this being Sexual Assault Awareness Month, it is about awareness that not only that sexual assault happens, but it also happens way too often. It affects each one of us. Even if you have not personally experienced sexual assault, someone you know has. But sexual assault is preventable. And one of the ways that we can prevent it is by creating a culture where survivors are believed and heard. So with that, I implore everyone here to always have the response of, you did nothing to deserve this and you did nothing wrong on your lips for whenever someone discloses to you what has happened to them. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for the amazing service that you provide. Item number 5 is a proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2019 as Fair Housing Month in the city of Norman. I'll entertain a motion to acknowledge receipt of the proclamation.
Motion to acknowledge.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. That was unanimous. A proclamation of the mayor of the city of Norman, Oklahoma, proclaiming the month of April 2019 as Fair Housing Month in the city of Norman. Whereas fair housing is the law of the state of Oklahoma and then consistent with the principle of equality and justice for all. And whereas the freedom to choose a dwelling has been one held precious in America through the centuries. Whereas equal housing opportunities is a right guaranteed to all Americans under the Title 13 of the 1968 Civil Rights Act. And whereas, I'm sorry, that was Title 8. Whereas April 2019 marked the 51st anniversary of the federal Fair Housing Law, also known as Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Whereas the month of April symbolizes a significant milestone for all Americans to rededicate themselves to this country and the state of Oklahoma's underlying premise that all citizens be guaranteed freedom of choice, and the state publicly reaffirms its public policy to eliminate all vestiges of housing discrimination wherever they exist. And whereas Oklahoma's housing industry and governmental entities are united in the common goal of providing safe and sanitary housing for all, without regard to race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, or handicap, or familial status. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2019 as Fair Housing Month. And at this time, would Mary Dolan come to the podium? Doolin? Mary Doolin.
That old Irish name, Doolin.
It's a good Irish name. You want to
Yes,
come
I am.
forward? Thank you for being here. You have a few words to say. Does everybody want to speak?
No. No, we're going to sing a song. No, I'm kidding. We'd like to thank you, Mayor. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the founding of our agency. I'd like to introduce our staff to you. This is Mr. Shafiq Islam, Director of Enforcement. Ms. Kathy Fee is our intake supervisor. Lorena Machado is our fiscal manager. And Ms. Ruth Sanchez is our fair housing specialist and limited English proficient coordinator. While we are celebrating Fair Housing Month, we're looking at Norman because Norman is a city of inclusivity. What we'd like to recognize tonight is the work of 3 of your council members, Councilmember Bierman, Wilson, and Hickman, who listen to the needs of the community, who are asking for accessibility and visitability. The last several weeks, they have met with people from the community, from the disability community, builders, developers, to talk about accessibility and visitability. Visitability is a term that will be discussed. You'll hear it, but Councilmember Hickman has chaired the committee, and he will be the one to roll out the announcement. We would like to invite you to participate on April the 25th at the library next door from 9:30 to 2:30, where we will be having a seminar on accessibility and visitability in Norman, supported by Progressive Independence, OK Adapt, and the Norman Ad Hoc Committee on Accessibility and Visitability. And we thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you for the work that you do for our community. It's very much appreciated. What date was that, April 25th? Item number 6 is a consent docket. This item is placed on the agenda so that the city council, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine agenda items that they wish to be approved or acknowledged by one motion. I need a motion to place items 7 through 32, with the exception of items 8 and 9, which were withdrawn by staff, and items 25 and 26 on the consent docket. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Item number 7 is submission of the city manager's change order report. Item number 10 is a bid and contract with John A. Marshall Company in the amount of $336,515.23. Item 11 is a bid and contract with Muirfield Office and School Supply in the amount of $30,047.79. Item 12 is bid and contract with Workspace Solutions, Scott Rice, in the amount of $112,725.40. Item 13 through 17 are all acceptance of temporary and permanent easements from the J.D. McCarty Center for the 24th Avenue East widening project that will go from Alameda to Robinson Street, and signalization. Item 18 is a donation in the amount of $500 from the Community Solutions International to assist in efforts to address homelessness in the city of Norman and budget appropriations. Item 19 is acceptance of a 2018 Continuum of Care planning grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $12,088 to be used for the coordination of activities related to homelessness, approval of a contract, and budget appropriations from the Community Development Block Grant Fund. Item 20 is a special claim submitted by Michelle Stewart in the reduced amount of $4,198.94 for damage to her vehicle as a result of an accident with a sanitation vehicle at 2813 Wymoth Court. Item 21 is amendment number 1 to a contract with Freeze and Nichols, increasing the contract amount by $160,000 for a revised contract amount of $363,400 to provide additional engineering design services for the East Interstate Drive project from Main Street to Robinson Street. Item 22 is change order number 1 to a contract with SAC Services, decreasing the contract amount by $180,919.92 for a revised contract amount of $1,316,940.08 for the 2016 Urban Concrete Pavement Repair Bond Program. FYE 2018 locations and final acceptance of the project. Item 23, final acceptance and final payment of a contract by and between the City of Norman, Oklahoma and Grissom Landscape Nursery for off-site tree planting for the Main Street Bridge over Brookhaven Creek and budget transfer. Item 24 is change order number 1 to a contract with Silver Star Construction, decreasing the contract by $220,182.21 for a revised contract amount of $823,707.79 for the 2016 Urban Asphalt Pavement Rehabilitation Bond Program, FYE 2018 locations, and final acceptance of the project. Item 25 is a contract. Oh, item 25 is off. Item 26. Item 26 is off. Item 27, a resolution of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, depositing deferral funds totaling $590,000 $26,796.45 paid by the developers of Cedar Lane, Section 1, and the Links at Norman Planned Unit Development, appropriating those funds to the Cedar Lane widening project from 12th Avenue Southeast to east of 24th Avenue Southeast, and transferring the remaining Cedar Lane Road project funds in the amount of $596,327.45 to the 24th Avenue East project. Item 28 is a resolution of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, depositing deferral funds totaling $118,301.50 paid by the developers of the Alameda Park Addition Section 3, Royal Oaks Edition Number 8, and Royal Oaks Edition Number 9, and appropriating those funds to the project account to be used for the 24th Avenue East widening project from Lindsay Street to Robinson. Item 29 and 30 are project agreements with, actually, let's see, 29, 30, 31, and 32 are all project agreements with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, one in the amount of $960,000, one in the amount of $880,000 for the city's share of the widening of 24th Avenue East from Alameda Street to Robinson Street, with signals and adoption of Resolution R 1819-100. And 31 and 32, one is a right-of-way and public utility agreement with Oklahoma Department of Transportation for the same project, and the right-of-way of public utility and public utility agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for the construction of, I don't see how they're different, 24th Avenue East widening project, Phase 2, Phase 1 and Phase 2 from Alameda Street to Robinson Street, and the adoption of Resolution R 1819-96. I need a motion to approve or reject the consent docket.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
I second.
I second.
Are there any comments, council, regarding any item on the consent docket? Motion on the floor is to approve the consent docket. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to approve the consent docket passes unanimously.
This brings us,
Item 25. 25 and 26 are just pulled up. That's it. That's all.
but he's still going to talk about it.
No, they're just pulled. No, off the agenda.
Oh,
We're going to vote on.
oh, okay. I'm sorry. The items were pulled off consent, so I guess, Mr. Foster, you get up and talk about 25 and 26. I'm sorry, folks. We've had a really long day. We've been interviewing people since 8 o'clock this morning and haven't quit talking. So if we seem a little muddled, that's why. Okay, let me go ahead and read the item, get a motion on it, and then we'll let you talk, okay? Item 25, contract with Flintco LLC in the amount of $55,000 to provide construction management and risk services for the Norman Forward Reeves and Griffin Park remodel projects. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Motion
moved.
to approve.
Second.
All right, now, have the president.
Judd Foster, Director of Parks and Recreation. If I may, I will speak to both items 25 and 26 together. Got a short presentation summarizing both of those items. They are, as you just read, construction manager at risk contracts, one with Flintco and one with Crossland Construction Company for the Griffin and Reeves Park and Ruby Grant Park projects. Quick background about these projects. The Griffin and Reeves Sports Complexes and the Ruby Grant Park project are all Norman Forward projects, some of our largest, or some of the larger Norman Forward projects. And The master plans for these were approved Ruby Grant first in January of 2008 by the City Council. Then the Griffin master plan was approved in August of 17, and the Reeves plan approved by council in December of 17. We're now proceeding with the various components of some of those projects. The Reeves complex includes, this contract, I should say, for the Reeves complex includes a new park maintenance facility, which will be relocated from the current facility at Reeves Park to a new location at our North Base property, just south of where our fleet maintenance facilities are located. And this construction, or this contract, involves design and construction of that facility, along with all of the work at Reeves Sports Complex, which will be 10 baseball and softball fields, entry drives, parking, lawn and festival areas, and so forth. All of the improvements that you have seen before in the master plan. Half and Associates is our consulting team that is working on this project, have completed the 60% construction documents. Those plans are now under review. And moving on to the Griffin complex, you'll recall the first two phases of the Griffin work, regrading projects, both of those have been completed. The next phase includes regrading 4 football fields and construction of a restroom and a plaza area. Those plans have been completed and are now under review. PDG is our consulting team on that project. And as I mentioned, those plans are completed and being reviewed and approaching bidding phase for that work. The Ruby Grant Park project is being designed and managed, or not managed, but designed by the Howland Van Kuren Landscape Architect Group. They are complete with the 60% construction documents. We expect the 90% plans, or 95% plans, I should say, later this month. That project will include the entry and parking areas, the cross-country trail, which will be a competition facility, the multi-purpose trails, dog park, disc golf course, playgrounds, picnic facilities, and restroom facilities. RFQs were requested in February for construction managers to manage these projects. Pardon me. 7 proposals were received. We selected 3 of those for interviews. After the interviews, we determined that it made the most sense to combine the Reeves and Griffin projects because of their similar nature. Also because they're so intertwined with coordination. We have to complete one project at one site and then start another one, at the other site, and so forth. You've heard all of those sequences before. And so it made most sense and we thought would be more feasible and more economical to combine those into one construction manager. That is with Flintco, LLC. That's contract 18-19-132. That's item 25 on your agenda tonight. And Flintco has a great track record with us so far. They're finishing up the tennis complex, the indoor tennis facility right now at Westwood. Of course, they've been the contractor on the Central Library project and have done an exemplary job there. So we're anxious to continue our relationship with Flintco. They had great experience with these kinds of projects as well. And again, we look forward to that. The initial contract for Flintco is a bit larger than the other one because it includes both parks as well as the park maintenance facility. The initial contract amount is in the amount of $55,000. We will change that, if you recall, from the tennis project. We'll change order that up once bidding and all of that process is complete, with all the parts and pieces are bid out. then they will come back with a change order to amend that contract for a guaranteed maximum price. And so that will follow after all the bidding. This contract, this item is technically with the Norman Municipal Authority. You'll recall that the city of Norman is sales tax exempt and is allowed by state law to pass that exemption one time. In this case, they pass it to the NMA. And then the NMA contracts with Flintco in this case. And in order to save the sales tax, Flintco will work with us on a monthly basis, submitting invoices for all the parts and materials that are purchased. And we'll actually purchase those through our department. So the city is technically making those purchases. The Ruby Grant, yes, I'm sure he would be. The Ruby Grant project is contract 1819-133. That's item 26 in your agenda. That is with Crossland Construction Company. We thought the most appropriate to do the work at Ruby Grant. They had just completed, if you're familiar with the Gathering Place, it's a large project in Tulsa. They just completed that project. And I'm sure they're very proud of that. The initial contract amount for their services is $17,575. And again, that will be change ordered up once the bidding process is complete. And we'll come back to council for a guaranteed maximum price on that project as well. This project is a PAYGO project. This is money that is not bonded or borrowed, if you will, or bonded, I should say. And so this is money that's been collected and is being paid as we go. And so this contract is with the city of Norman and does not require us to do the tax exemption issue because the city is of course tax exempt. So this will be run as a normal tax exempt project. Those are the highlights of these two contracts. And if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to. Also, our consultants are here with ADG, and they've looked through all of this information with us. And also the representatives from Crossland and Flintco are here too, if you have questions of them.
Council questions. Councilmember Hickman.
Thank you, Judd, for the presentation. I thought it would be helpful for the public to get an update on these Norman Ford projects, because I know, at least from my perspective on council, I get lots of questions about them. So appreciate you pulling this together and your comments. And I would just say on behalf of Councilmember Castleberry and myself, who aren't here, thank you very much for, I know it's a little extra work for you guys on the Parks Department to coordinate that sales tax exemption. And so I do appreciate that very much. The question I had was really, you mentioned on the Griffin and Reeves piece about the sequencing issue. And my understanding was we still have a challenge in that we still need to find some acreage for some of the ball fields, if I remember correctly. Is that still accurate, that we're still kind of on hold? And how is that? That's why I was a little surprised when I saw the contract and we were moving forward, because I wasn't sure how that was going to work if we weren't able to really move forward, or we are on the entire project, or we're just doing part of it right now. Or can you explain that for us?
Be happy to. Great question. We are able to go ahead with, pardon me, we have 6 adult softball fields at Reeves Park that are kind of in the way, if you will. Those are the ones that we're seeking another piece of property for a new location. We are able to remove 3 of those as the first phase of this work, leave 3 in place, continue to play on those while the other work goes ahead. The Softball Association is able to run their program on 3 fields, at least for a short time, at least. And we are, yes, the answer to your question is we need another piece of property. We have one in sight. Actually, we're going to meet about it. Our group is meeting about it tomorrow. Hopefully you'll be getting some more information about that, but we have another piece of property, an option on a piece of property that we are exploring, and hopefully will work for us, and we'll be bringing that to council for consideration in terms of purchase in the near future. That would allow us to build the adult softball and actually youth football fields as well at that location, and totally clear the way at Reeves Park, which allows us to do all the work at Reeves. In the meantime, we can do 8 of the 10 fields that are mentioned in the Reeves work. And the final 2 fields would occur after the last 3 softball fields are gone. I hope that was relatively clear, but we're able to do a major portion of it. In summary, we can do a major portion of the work at Reeves. We'll follow up with the last 2 fields once the last 3 softball fields are gone.
Great. And the reason why I ask is I just want to make sure, because I know our Norman Ford budgets are a little tight, I guess you could say, that we weren't, this wasn't going to cost more, because I wasn't aware or wasn't sure that we maybe were within, sight of maybe having this additional acreage identified, that if we went in and did some of the work and then we're still waiting for land for the additional fields and then had to come back, my understanding sometimes on these construction projects, if we can get out there and do it all at once, there could be some economies of scale. I don't know how it was initially planned. I just kind of want to have a little bit of clarification because, people have been asking about the status of it, and I wasn't, like I said, quite sure if this was. My biggest thing is I want to avoid where 6 months, a year, whatever from now, that we're getting a change order and the cost is going up because we broke this up in a way because of the land issue that's hanging out there. Didn't know how it was intended to be phased. Maybe it was planned to be this way all along. So that was kind of my concern or question.
Yeah, we should be okay. I think the land that we're looking at is within our projected land acquisition budget for that project at this point. So all things considered, we should be okay.
Great. Thanks, Judd.
Any other questions from council members?
I do have a motion, Mayor. Motion to amend. Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to amend the general provisions attached to and incorporated in the contract K 1819-132 be amended to eliminate section D2 related to consequential damages.
Second.
Third.
Second.
We have a motion to amend section D2 or remove D2. 8D2. We have a motion to remove section 8D2 from the contract K 1819-132. We have any discussion from the council? Councilmember Holman.
Could we have legal or somebody explain what that is?
I think that would be a really good idea.
So section 8D2 is in the general provisions that are incorporated in both the contract with Crosslands and with Flintco. So I think you'll see amendments on both of those items. And it deals with consequential damages. Consequential damages are basically indirect damages. This particular section waives consequential damages as it relates to failure to complete the contract on time. So indirect damages would be things like damages the city might incur for loss of use of Ruby Grant Park, Reeves Park, income, loss of profit, things like that. Indirect damages the contractor may incur are things like continued office expenses for having to keep the personnel on site if the contract goes beyond the time it's supposed to. It does not waive liquidated damages, which is something we see in all of our contracts as a remedy for failure to complete a contract on time. This section is not generally in our general provisions, but it was added at the request of Crosslands, I believe. I think the thinking was that liquidated damages were sufficient to compensate the city if the contract wasn't completed on time, and that because Ruby Grant particularly is currently vacant land that's not being used for any city activities, that the risk for indirect damages was not significant. That language was also added to the Flintco contract because same thing there, the liquidated damages were contained within that contract. And so this is a standard form found in AI, standard term, standard language found in AIA contracts, but it's not standard language for our general conditions that you all are used to seeing. And so although this was requested during negotiations with Crosslands, I believe they and Flintco have indicated a willingness to strike this provision from the contract based on concerns expressed to me by Councilmember Hickman.
Thank you.
So this has already been discussed with them. Okay. Any other questions from council members? This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions or make comments. We're on the amendment right now. Final comments from council on the amendment. If not, there is a motion to amend item 25. And council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have motion to remove section 8D2 from the contract passes unanimously.
Okay, that brings us back to the original motion on the contract K1819-132 as it was amended. Any more questions from the council? Comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, council members, you may cast your votes to approve the contract as amended.
All votes have motion to approve the contract as amended passes unanimously.
All right, now he has to make the amendment again on this one, right? Okay,
After you get a motion on the floor.
okay. We have a motion on the floor.
Go ahead and read it and get your motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item 26, contract K1819-133 with Crosslink Construction Company in the amount of $17,575 to provide construction management at risk services for the Norman Forward Ruby Grant Park Development Project and adoption of Resolution R 1819-102, granting tax exempt status.
Motion to approve.
I thought you had to.
Second.
No, get your motion. Okay, I need a motion to approve.
I made one.
Or adopt.
Motion to approve.
No, I'm
Motion to
sorry.
approve.
Second.
All right, now.
Mayor, I move the general provisions attached to and incorporated fully into contract K-1819-133 be amended to eliminate section 8D2 related to consequential damages.
Second.
Final comments? Council members, you may cast your vote on the amendment.
All votes have motion to remove section 8D2 from the contract passes unanimously.
This brings us back to item 26, the contract with Crosslink Construction. I need a motion. Oh, we've got the motion to approve. We need a discussion on the amended motion. No discussion. Councilmember Hickman.
I just want to say again, thank you to Judd for the comments and presentation on Ruby Grant Park, and express my appreciation to the folks at Flintco that are here for all the work they've been doing for the city, and to say excited to have the Crossland folks, I think, joining the Norman community and the work that they're doing. Being a Tulsa native and having family still up there, the gathering place is an incredible facility. And so if you can do, I don't know, half of that or a fraction of that for our Ruby Grant Park, I think the citizens of Norman will be totally excited. So thank you guys very much.
I'm sorry. Any more comments? No. All right, we have a motion on the floor with an amendment with Crosland Construction Company. Council members, you may cast your vote.
All votes have been approve the contract as amended, passes unanimously.
This brings us to item 27, which is Resolution R 1819-97, resolution of the Council of the City of, no, we've already done it. Okay, let's. Okay, remember what I tried to do miscellaneous before? We're back to miscellaneous. Okay, thank you.
We all understand.
Huh?
We all understand. It's a long day.
None of this was on the script. We made some last minute changes. Okay, miscellaneous discussion. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council as a whole. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, right? Okay. You want to move up and
Okay,
move
I'm
the
sorry. Yes, my
microphone
name's
down
John
so we
Hyde.
can,
Okay,
so we can hear you.
okay. You might not want to listen.
No, we want to hear.
Okay, my name's John Hyde. I live at 1705 Dakota Street, Norman, Oklahoma. I'm sorry I haven't been up here lately, but guess what? I went out and about today. And usually when I go out and about, I see things that really need to be addressed very quickly. And then I call certain city and council about why aren't they being addressed? Why aren't they being fixed? And today I was over by the old 7-Eleven on Main Street where the 7-Eleven used to be. I think some of you have been here long enough. You know where I'm talking about. Mercedes in Main right there. And I was filling a concrete ditch for the sidewalk. It's empty for 2 spaces, right? Then I went over the parking lot and there's a creek 3 feet deep all the way across the parking lot, right? With nothing blocking you from hitting it. So then I said, okay, what should I do? I'll call the city. I called the city and I talked to one of the city officials. If he wants to raise his hand, he can. And I asked him, why is there no safety stuff around this stuff? He says, we have problems with these contractors all the time. And I said, well, what are we doing to fix it? Are we putting articles in the contract saying you're going to be held responsible if these safety grounds are not being met? And I said, when are they going to be fixed? Well, I came to a meeting tonight and he goes, we've talked to them. They got 24 hours to do. And I'm thinking, if someone goes over there at night and that area right there is dark and then I'll get out and they hit into that concrete thing that doesn't have no safety around it or anything else, who's going to pay for their damages? The sidewalk, I think maybe the city. The parking lot's going to be that construction worker. And I wouldn't want to be either one of them because there's no safety straps around or nothing. If you go that way, you'll see it. It's very easy to see, but you won't see it at night because it's too dark over there. They don't have parking lights. So I thought, what is the main thing we could do to fix this where it doesn't get, if it's happening there, it's going to be happening at different locations. Maybe putting in the contract with the construction workers that they'll held accountable for this and that we will fine them or charge them things to make sure they do it right. I shouldn't be up here today with it. This should be done right all the time. When they get a contract, they'll have to certain responsibilities to make sure that contract's done right. And one of them is to make sure the public here in Norman is safe to go around that area. You know what I'm saying? What if a 3-year-old goes in that area? Well, or anything. But I just wanted to bring this out to maybe you could put a paragraph in their contracts, making sure they're aware of that, because it's always the city told me we have this all the time. Why isn't someone doing it to stop it before we end up paying out of our own pockets? But I would like y'all to just hear that. I mean, if you want to go by there and you'll see it tonight when you go home, you'll be going, oh my God. And this is a sidewalk. What if you're a blind person and you're walking down the sidewalk and you hit that? Because you know what? A couple of years back on the other side by Dairy Queen, they had a destruction thing there and a blind person fell in it. And she was too embarrassed to sue the hell out of somebody. But she fell into that construction area because they didn't have the safety things there. So I just want to bring that to y'all's attention so we can start working, especially when I'm hearing all this construction work. I'm thinking in the back of my mind going, are they really going to be doing what they need to do to be safety for not just for people with disability, but for anybody who's walking down the street? So we really need to look at that and maybe look at addressing a paragraph with these contractors and making them do the right thing since they can't do it on their own. I mean, it's pretty common sense, but sometimes common sense need to be written down in paper to get them to do the right thing. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that to
No
our
problem.
attention.
And maybe you want to tell the city officials if they're having that much problem so y'all can work on it together. more, the many of the rings you get, the better off you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening. I'm Shane Dodson, and I live in Ward 8. And since we've been coming here addressing the city council and interacting with folks in Norman, we've encountered some passionate arguments in favor of legalized abortion, which is the main thing we've been talking to the city council about. Roe versus Wade isn't law by any stretch of the imagination, but many treat this unconstitutional and unscientific court ruling as though it were codified law. And the arguments that accompany a defense of this legalized fiction are articulated with passion, no doubt, but they don't hold up to scrutiny. Here are some examples of some of the most common objections we as Christians have encountered. They'll say it's legal. That's the objection. Well, so was slavery. So was chattel slavery. Legal doesn't equal moral. Slavery had its very passionate and very vocal proponents, but we don't determine morality according to what's legal and what isn't. Another one is it's not a human. Well, a human fetus has the same biological components that you and I do. All that is necessary to be considered life. The only difference with an unborn baby is 4 things: size, level of development, environment, and degree of dependence. I'll address each of these differences briefly. Size. Well, how big does a human have to be before a woman can no longer choose to kill him or her? 2 inches, 4 inches? How can one appeal to anything other than something arbitrary? Level of development. A 1-year-old isn't as developed as a 2-year-old, which isn't as developed as a 4-year-old, which isn't as developed as a 13-year-old, and so on. I think you get the point. We're back to appealing to an arbitrary standard. Environment. Well, why is it acceptable to kill a human that's still in her mother's womb, but not okay to kill a human as she's sleeping in her crib? What does environment have to do with it? Degree of dependence. Well, newborns are dependent on their parents. Remove an unborn child from the safe environment of her mother's womb and she'll die. Toss a newborn outside and she'll eventually die of exposure. Turn off a respirator on a comatose patient and he or she will die. Some of you may actually support a patient's right to die in that circumstance, but that's really the point, isn't it? The patient got to choose when the respirator got turned off. The unborn baby makes no such choice. Here's another one. You're just a man and you're discussing a woman's body. Well, 2 things. In this day and age, I find it curious that you would be assuming my gender, but we'll set that one aside. The body inside a woman's body is not her body. Look at a picture of a pregnant woman. Just imagine it. We can't look at it right now. If I were to ask you, as you're looking at such a picture, how many arms does that woman have? And you answered 2. Well, then you would be agreeing with me that the body inside her body is not her body. We hear these arguments brought against our position, and frankly, they're bad arguments. As Christians, we are told that we aren't to fight against sin such as abortion or any sin for that matter, whether it's our own sin or sin in society. We're not to fight against these things with physical prowess. 2 Corinthians 10 says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. So we don't fight against the thinking that allows abortion with fists, with guns, or with bombs. We address the arguments behind this thinking. We tear down not physical strongholds, but mental, emotional, and spiritual ones. That's why we're here. But we don't simply want to refute bad arguments and then walk away because, well, when we're left to ourselves, we'll always drop old bad arguments and then pick up new bad arguments. We want error to be replaced with truth. And the truth we proclaim is Jesus Christ and him crucified. This is a message that those who are perishing find foolish. So if you find the message of a crucified Messiah foolish, then that means that you're perishing. This should concern you. Jesus Christ came to this earth 2,000 years ago in order to pay for the sins of all of his people, including our really bad arguments and our messed up worldview. Abortion is a sin that can be forgiven. I have spoken with women who have had an abortion, but who have been forgiven because they repented, because they turned from their sin and turned back to their Creator, back to God. And they turned to God through his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. He died an unthinkable, horrific death for the sins of his people, and then rose again to show the world that he and he alone has the power over death. Those who take part in abortion, whether they are mothers and fathers, whether they are medical professionals actually doing the deed, or whether they're city officials who actively support mothers and fathers and these medical professionals, no matter who it is, they're
Oh, my name is Christine Kinley, and I'm also here to talk on the same subject. I also want to thank the Parks and Recs and all of those who are talking about fair housing, because you know why? We're here all for the same purpose, for our children, for our people. And I am also talking pro-life, not talking pro-football, pro-baseball, pro-golf. Sorry, guys. But what I'm here to talk about is safe housing. It's all about location and safety. With that said, like the woman who was tragically murdered by dismemberment, which is on the news now, she was in the safety of her home, a safe haven. A baby in the safety of the mother's womb is also being dismembered violently. When the doctor, I don't even want to call him a doctor, when the abortionist, if you watch the movie Unplanned, the baby is fighting to be saved from the dismemberment. It has been recent that the United States Health Department has said that it is human from the moment of conception. The heart starts beating 18 days after conception. The baby should also have the safety. And like he said, there is forgiveness. And as I am a pro-lifer, I have learned just recently that there are over 100 places for women who have had abortions who need help, for girls that are pregnant who need help. And I had no idea, from Blanchard to Norman, from all over the state. It was very enlightening to me because we are here to help them. Okay. I also just want to say I am a mother of an adopted child. She is our world. Of course, she's no longer a baby. She's 32 years old. And there's a prayer. It says, not of my bone, not blood of my blood, nor bone of my bone, but still miraculously my own. You weren't born under my heart, but in it. There is no such thing as an unwanted child, not by an adoptive parent. We waited 8 years, and you might be thinking, what about all those in foster care? We tried and tried to adopt a legally blind 8-year-old little boy. But they said, well, the mother comes and sees the little boy once a month, brings him McDonald's, so the mother's trying. So after a year of fighting, we no longer could get the little boy. But we were blessed with a beautiful little girl who is now a teacher, a therapist, and a coach. And I thank God every day that she was blessed with life. And what I'm here to ask is that we can hopefully make Norman a sanctioned city where abortion is no longer legal in the city of Norman. Little by little, hopefully we can save a life. And as I said, there are many, many facilities if we could only educate the girls and the men, because it is very heartbreaking. I was outside the abortion clinic and a girl came up to me crying. I said, how can I help you? She said, I had an abortion 8 years ago and I still am having nightmares. So even though they may think they're helping, they're just an emotional wreck. And I want them to know that there are places we can help them. But if we can please pray and hope that we can get Norman to be the leader of all the cities, I would appreciate it. And as you say, in God we trust. And now we are trusting in you to make the right decisions. Thank you. God bless you and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak today. I appreciate your time and your patience and the open-mindedness to listen to the citizens of this city. I am a University of Oklahoma student. I'm a Jew. I'm a young female, and I face a lot of the issues that people are talking about today in regards to abortion, and I'd like to share a few things about this. My name is Mackenzie Whitehead. I'm a citizen of this city for 5 years. So I'd like to start off by saying just a few facts. Life is described as organisms that are open system, that maintain homeostasis, are composed of cells, have a life cycle, undergo metabolism, can grow, adapt to their environment, respond to stimuli, reproduce, and evolve. If it were not a living being in the womb, we would not have to terminate it. And I think that's important to distinguish here. An abortion is the termination of a living human being in the womb by all measures of modern science. Our Constitution does not protect murder. It does not protect the taking of a human life with the intentional mindset to do so. That's not protected. In common law, murder was defined as the killing of another human being with malice aforethought. Malice aforethought is a legal term of art that encompasses the following types of murder: of intent to kill and grievous bodily harm murder, killing someone in an attack intended to cause them grievous bodily harm. And by that definition and by modern science, murder occurs in Norman at Dr. Burns' facility on 24th and Lindsay by the Brahms. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just for time's sake. I would like to address something important to me as a Jew. I know that there has been some comments by some people on the council that it's egregious to make such similarities between the Holocaust and what is happening today, and I'd like to address that. The similarities between the Nazi and abortion Holocaust today go far deeper than just the high body count. There are many points of similarity between the Holocaust and what is happening with infanticide today. By the use of deceptive language, by Planned Parenthood and their use of advertisement, by the use of abortion clinics and their use of advertisement in this city. And I hope that we can work towards using more realistic terms in advertising. The ideology formed by doctors, the speed of the murders, and the philosophical justification. In the political realm, the Nazis attacked their opponents with such terms as reactionaries, a small but vocal minority. They called us terrorists and non-progressives. By comparison, current day women's choice physicians perform, quote, evacuations of the uterine content instead of referring to them as a baby. They perform voluntary interruptions of pregnancy in, quote, reproductive health centers and dispose of subhuman non-personhood. We saw this before and we're seeing it today, and it disgusts me to see this type of behavior and to see it allowed in my city where I pay taxes. They call the babies protoplasmic rubbish and human waste in little ovens built for the purpose of disposing of late-term aborted babies. These similarities between the words employed by the Nazis and the pro-abortionists to label the essential elements of the respective Holocaust, the victims, the killing, the killers, the killing places, and the opposition are absolutely striking. And I do not find it egregious to make that comparison as a young Jewish conservative at campus and a citizen of this city. So I'd like to remind the council that if one Jew speaks, there may be others who come up and as well disagree with that. I would urge the council as well to just consider the zoning in this city with the abortion clinic, to understand that we can, without taking away choice from women, that there are 6 choices. We just don't like the 6th one. And on the last topic I'd like to address is the CART transportation system of Norman, to urge the council to allow weekend bus routes.
Council, Mayor, I'm Gary Barksdale, fourth generation Normanite and over a quarter of a century citizen of Ward 8. Before I get on with what I've got to say, I wanted to express appreciation for the council hearing all points of view and how important it is in this country that we all have the right of free expression, regardless of what those viewpoints are. Also, that I didn't show up at the last council meeting because I want to give kudos out to the Norman Public School System. 2 weeks ago, Tuesday night, was the All-City Band concert. Lloyd Noble Center was packed with a bunch of parents and wonderful, talented kids. And the band directors, Stephen Myler and Trent Davis at the 2 high schools, did an outstanding job. So I wanted to make a comment about that we should be very proud of our school system and the talent that we have for our youth. Now to the issue. The issue of yourselves, council, holding yourselves to the same standard that you expect the citizens that entrust you to those chairs. There were 2 courageous women that came into this room tonight that had signs with them. They were told that they could not hold the signs up and they could not bring the signs up in front of the dais. Yet, 2 council meetings ago, 3 of your members not only brought signs to the dais, but in their official positions as elected members of this council, held the signs up. Are you willing to refute that and hold the council members to the same standard that you hold the people, the citizens, to? If not, you're tyrants. Now, here in the U.S., we have severe penalties for destroying eagle eggs, unborn eagles, turtle eggs, unborn turtles, and many other unborn animals. However, human children in the womb with a heartbeat, feelings, and human brainwave activity are being dismembered or poisoned and killed. Certain lawmakers and government officials, a number on this council, not only embrace this massacre, but celebrate it. Effington, Illinois, and Roswell, New Mexico, have both declared themselves recently sanctuaries for these helpless human beings yet to be born. Here in Norman and in over 580 cities nationwide, we are currently nearing the end of our 40 days for life. This atrocity of abortion touches all lives, even in our city, and anything that adversely affects our city's citizens is a city issue. It is a city council issue. We plead and beg that this city make a proclamation to declare Norman a sanctuary city for unborn babies, as 2 cities recently have, and many more are currently considering. It was our Declaration of Independence that stated that we are endowed by our Creator with the right, the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The first of those rights was the right to life. We're denying that right to our citizens that are yet to be born simply because of their location and their stage of development. Our Constitution, the very document that you guys swore to uphold whenever you took your oath of office, states that we must secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. What is posterity defined as? Our citizens yet to be born. That's how it's defined. Do we hold true to the oath that we take whenever we take an oath of office? Do we hold true to that oath that we are going to hold ourselves to the exact same standards that we expect of our citizens? If you don't, you are tyrants, and you need to be removed by whatever means necessary. And the means necessary is through legal action or whatever we can do. Elections have consequences, and it's necessary that the tyrants either step down or make some type of apology and restitution for those citizens that they violated the rights of. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Tammy Dodson, and I live in Ward 8. It's going to read John 4, 1 through 26. It says, "Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself did not baptize, but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again to Galilee, but he needed to go through Samaria. So he came to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied from his journey, sat thus by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, 'Give me a drink,' for his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, 'How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink for me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans.' Jesus answered and said to her, 'If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, "Give me a drink," you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water.' The woman said to him, 'Sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and livestock?' Jesus answered and said to her, 'Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up to everlasting life.' The woman said to him, 'Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw.' Jesus said, 'Go call your husband and come here.' The woman said, 'I have no husband.' Jesus said to her, 'You have well said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband, and that you spoke truly.' The woman said to him, 'Sir, I perceive you're a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where one ought to worship.' Jesus said to her, 'Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth.' The woman said to him, 'I know that Messiah is coming, who's called Christ. When he comes, he'll tell us these things.' Jesus said to her, 'I who speak to you am he.'" Jesus had revealed himself as the Savior of the world to the Samaritan woman. In fact, Jesus crossed all cultural and ethnic barriers to show this woman love. Jesus came to break down these type of barriers to unity, including abortion. Every tribe, every tongue, every nation is invited to trust Jesus as their Savior. There's a lot of unrest over these barriers. The issue of abortion is at the forefront of our conversation to you tonight. The message is still the same. And as his ambassadors, we plead with you to repent of apathy or indifference or denial of babies being murdered and be reconciled to Christ. He is full of mercy and gives grace to the humble. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Mackenzie Dotson, and I live in Ward 8. I came here to talk to you about abortion. Every day, babies are being killed at abortion clinics. Abortion clinics are places of torture for babies. Abortion is torture for babies. It's overwhelmingly sad. Not only are babies killed, but mothers are emotionally scarred for life. Since you have the power to end abortion in Norman, please do. For more information, go to endabortionnow.com. Thank you for your time, and God bless you all.
Hi, Steve Ellis, 633 Reed. I'll keep it short. I had some good news today that I wanted to spread around. The University of Oklahoma debate teams attended the Cross-Examination Debate Association National Tournament in Long Beach, California this weekend. This is the final tournament of the debate season for policy debate. It's the sort of open national championship. They call it the People's Tournament. There's a lot of good news for OU there. All of our teams did well, but here's the real headline. The OU team of Jasmine Pickens and Darius White went undefeated, 15-0. So 8 preliminary rounds and 5 elimination rounds. It's actually a pretty grueling tournament, winning the national championship. So the University of Oklahoma's latest national championship is in policy debate. Jasmine and Darius achieved this outstanding effort under some rather trying circumstances, including the fact that I'm basically their substitute teacher, right? Their real coach is George Lee Jr., but I am the person who is the titular head because they fired the previous guy. So I don't know what I'm doing, and they won anyway, which is a very, very impressive result. So I thought that was something worth recognizing, and maybe a good thing to sort of go out on today was OU has some new national champions, and it's in college policy debate. Thank you.
Hi, Cindy Rogers, Ward 4, 633 Reed Avenue. So I just wanted to relay what John High was going to tell you. He didn't understand that he couldn't break up his comments because not everybody's as organized with all their comments as some people like Dr. Ellis. So he wanted to relay that there's been issues with cart access, people calling well in advance and being put on standby, and then not knowing whether they're going to get picked up for an 8 o'clock doctor's appointment. And as we think about accessibility and ADA, and we work towards truly being an inclusive and accessible community, I would suggest that cart access is a high priority. And I know we have budget problems, but there's a lot of things I'd be willing to give up to move those things forward. So I trust that you guys will look at that and see how we can make that service better for folks that rely on that to get to the doctor's office. Thanks.
Any other comments?
Okay, let's see. Been here since 8 this morning. Try to keep it pretty short, but we did have a big election last week, and I do want to make a few comments about it. Although there, a lot of disappointment about 2 of the items for many of us. There was a lot of work by us and others in the community for years on some instances to put those together, and to have them not pass was pretty difficult. And now we're just going to have to work harder and make some decisions to make sure we can continue to provide the services needed and figure out what we're going to do with stormwater. But I do want to highlight what I considered a positive from Tuesday night, and that was the passage of the transportation bond. I know not everyone shares that excitement as I do, but for my ward personally, my ward's going to benefit quite significantly from the passage of that bond. The number one stormwater issue in Ward 7 is part of the transportation bond and will be fixed via that way, the Lindsay Street project. It's still a few years out according to our schedule, but for Ward 7 residents and many people around the university that are familiar with Lindsay and Elm Street, Lindsay and College, Lindsay and Chautauqua, that flooding problem is significant. It's also the number 5, I believe, flooding problem identified in our stormwater master plan. So it wasn't a complete loss in my view. And 3 major road projects for Ward 7, adding bike lanes, sidewalks, ADA compliant sidewalks on both sides of the street lighting on Lindsay, Jenkins, and Constitution. The Constitution project is really important to me because Constitution and Brook Street are the only two railroad crossings in urban Norman that do not have pedestrian crossings on either side at all. People have to, I have pictures of people walking in the street, walking in traffic, walking in the ditch because there's nowhere to go. Both of those crossings are in Ward 7. One of them's half in Ward 4, half in Ward 7 at Brooks. So I was very excited to see that. I'm also was very excited about, we're going to get a traffic control management center. Traffic and congestion is a big deal for people in Norman, and this facility is going to help significantly to address that issue in Norman. Having a central location where we can manage the 160 or so signalized intersections in the city is pretty significant for us. So not a tax increase, a 10-year plan. So you can look at this map of projects and say, what are going to be the major road projects in Norman over the next 10 years? What do I need to plan around? Look at that map and it'll tell you what we're going to be doing. So you're not surprised by it. So for Ward 7, we made out pretty good in the transportation bond. I'm excited about that. And I'm proud of Ward 7 residents for stepping up and supporting all three of the items on the ballot. I think we were one of only 2 wards that did, but I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to getting to work with staff on some of those projects. The second thing I would mention is I went to the Medieval Fair Sunday and I was approached by several people that were concerned about what we're going to do with Reeves Park in regard to the senior center and the Medieval Fair and how we're going to be remaking Reeves Park through Norman Forward. So there's also lots of questions about the new softball stadium in OU and whether we're going to be able to realign Constitution Avenue or not. So one of the ideas I've had maybe is trying to put together a meeting within the next few weeks or month at our Reeves Park facility. And hopefully we could have members of the senior center, Medieval Fair, OU athletic department, our transportation staff, and whoever else might be interested, so we can kind of get on the same page about what's going on in that area. And having the meeting there, I think, would be beneficial, so people can literally stand there on that corner and see what are we looking at here with all this stuff. So that's something I've reached out to the manager's office to see about putting that together sometime soon. So anyway, thank you all for coming here tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.
We've got the other meeting on the 30th. Council.
Okay. I just have a couple comments and then a few event announcements. We had some hate crime vandalism in our community on Tuesday, and to say it was unfortunate would be a massive understatement. I actually had a resident text me pictures, which I immediately shared. I called Judd first, actually, Mr. Foster with Parks and Rec, because it was near Lions Park, and I was incredibly emotional, and it really caught me off guard, because you always think it won't happen here, that we're immune to that. We're not. We've got a lot of work to do in this community, but I want to say thank you to all of the council members here today. We rallied quickly and came together as a team, and in 8 hours put together a pretty darn good rally to send a message that we will not be intimidated, we will not be bullied, we will not be harassed. We struck back with love, and we had a flub that I would like to apologize for. I've done so personally and taken phone calls on it, but I want to apologize for any insensitivities that I may have made in selections of speakers due to ignorance about the Jewish faith. And I'm not afraid to admit that I was wrong and I didn't know, and I'm embarrassed by that. And I've already got tours set up with the Schusterman Center on campus because I preach all the time inclusivity. And I've done my best to reach out to a lot of communities of different faiths. And I realized I have a deficit in the area of knowledge about the Jewish faith. And I plan to remedy that and lead by example. And I hope you all do too, because that's what's going to make our Norman community a truly inclusive community. I also want to, again, share some events coming up. It's Medieval Fair and the spring game, so it's raining, of course. But we also have Open Streets Norman. That wonderful event is back for our 3rd year. This time it's on the west side. It's just north of Sooner Mall on Sunday, April 14th from 1 to 5 p.m. I really hope you'll come out, ride your bike out, skate out there. Heck, even do an e-scooter. I don't know, but hopefully the rain will have cleared out by then, because it's a wonderful event and there's lots of activities and it's a great way to meet your neighbors. And for you East Siders who don't really go out west very often, go look around. There might be some restaurants or businesses that you forgot about. It's just a great community event, and I always look forward to it. And I'm fingers crossed it doesn't rain. And then we talked a lot today in our interviews about a walkable, bikeable community, and I have stressed that we have Safety Town for our young Normanites, but it might be helpful for our adults to brush up on bike safety rules and what that looks like. And so the Norman Police Department organized an adult bike school. It's completely free. It will be Saturday, April 20th from 9 to 11 a.m. at Irving Middle School. Anyone can sign up. They'll go over the rules and then take you out on a bike ride. And I'm really excited about that. I will also make sure that the Norman Police Department continues to educate drivers on how to share the road. We'll work on that. You know, we talk about what the Norman we want to become, and it takes a lot of education and some culture shifts, but I think we can do it. I really do. And then finally, planning ahead, the East Side Business Association is celebrating Lucha de Mayo at the NCED Conference Center on Sunday, May 5th. From, I wrote 1 to 5, but I think it might be 3. Let me check real quick. If you've heard of luchadors, they are Mexican wrestlers. We are flying them from Mexico. It should be a very interesting cultural event. And for those who pay attention, we have the Blue Demon. No, none of you clearly pay attention. It's supposed to be like a big, okay, thank you, Dr. Ellis. It's supposed to be like a big deal. I'm pretty excited about it. There's business sponsorships available, something neat in our community. We've also got Dr. Carter left, but the Norman Native American Frontier Days that weekend, and a new addition to the City of Festivals. So I love this time of year because I like to say, if you're bored, it's your own fault. There is so much going on in this city, so many great events. There's no reason to be stuck inside the rain. Well, okay, maybe the rain. But other than that, there's plenty going on, and I love this town, and I encourage you to get out and enjoy what makes it great. Thank you.
Good evening. I was really excited to see the Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation on the agenda tonight. I work closely with the Women's Resource Center on lots of fun projects that benefit them, but the one that's coming up is on April 20th at 10 a.m. We're doing a pause for consent at Andrews Park. It's $5. It's an opportunity to help fund the Women's Resource Center and get them some dollars, but it's also an opportunity to walk around with your dog and do fun things like that. But there's some educational components there where you'll learn about consent and those kinds of things that we need to know about in our community. But also this Saturday at 10:30 at Franklin Baptist Church, we are doing our ward meeting. So anybody that has anything exciting to come talk about, come talk. 10:30. See you then.
Councilmember Hickman.
Yeah, I just also have a couple of comments. I want to echo part of what Councilmember Clark said. The hate crime that happened here in Norman and at all 3 locations happened to be located in Ward 4 was horrific, and hate will have no home in Norman. I've already asked for our city staff to investigate whether or not we can enact stronger hate ordinances in Norman for enforcement purposes. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's something worth looking at to send a strong signal that not only will we stand together against it, as Councilmember Clark said, but we will punish it to the fullest extent of the law. I also want to talk about the transportation bond. I'm the chair of the Committee of Planning and Transportation Committee, and that committee put a lot of time and work into preparation of that bond, along with our city staff. I really want to acknowledge Sean O'Leary and our Public Works Department, a lot of great work they did. It was a very, to my knowledge, the first of a kind bond like this, where we did a blended approach, where some of those projects are fully funded with your local dollars through the bond, but also some are leveraged with federal funds. What that will do, allow us to start some of these projects almost immediately within the next year, hopefully, so we can start breaking ground very quickly, as opposed to other projects that we will wait for matching funds that might not be until 2023, 2024. For Ward 4, we like Ward 7, I think compared to the 2012 bond, There's considerably more investment going into Central Norman, being wards 4 and ward 7. Ward 4 has 3.5 projects is how I'll describe it. So I'm very excited. One of those projects is the Porter Street, which will help improve accessibility sidewalks in a new streetscape to clean up Porter Street and to make it safer for students to cross the street at Acre Street, where we have multiple schools on each side. Also will be expansion or extension of James Garner Avenue, going on past our new Norman Forward Library, past City Hall, on down to Duffy Street, which will be a beautiful gateway connecting our downtown and our downtown and our Campus Corner area, and a real opportunity to bring more vibrancy and life to both of those areas. Also, a first of a chance to do Gray Street. We'll be updating Gray Street and a two-way conversion of Gray Street to see the opportunities to enhance economic opportunities in that area of downtown. And then a part of Lindsay Street, as Councilmember Holman said, is also in Ward 4. It'll be a chance to extend our accessibility options and bike trails on Lindsay Street further into and across the campus. So in most all of those road projects, there will be accessibility issues with new sidewalks. Some of them will have bike paths and bike lanes and a nicer new boulevard look. And so I'm very excited about that investment that'll be coming to Central Norman through that transportation bond, and the way we were able to craft a package that I think will be really exciting for our community to see some immediate work and then a longer term project component with the 10-year funding pattern, as Councilmember Holman mentioned. I have a couple announcements I do want to make. This Friday is Second Friday Art Walk here in Norman, in historic downtown in Ward 4. So I invite all you to please come downtown. It's a wonderful evening. Prior to the actual festivities beginning that night at 4 p.m., there will be the grand opening of Gabriel Bird's Dentistry, which will be our first commercial building built on Main Street in downtown in a very long time, a new building, as well as it's the first commercial building built under our form-based code in the Central City area, for which we are in the process of discussing and updating currently as we work to improve our form-based code area in the Central City area. But come down Friday night. It's a great time. If you've not been to Art Walk, come down and support our local merchants shop and have a great time with the art and music. Then get up Saturday morning, the 13th, and at 8 a.m. you can support the Operation School Bell for Assistance League here in Norman. It's a 5K. So after a fun night out on Friday night, get up Saturday morning, go for a run, and burn off everything that you ate and drank the night before. And then kind of a heads up, we'll have a council meeting before this event, but the council meeting will be on Tuesday, the 23rd, and starting on the night of Thursday, April 25th, we will kick off Norman Music Fest. Those of you who haven't attended, it's a great fun time over the weekend. A lot of great bands. It's a part of the evening, part of the weekend is family friendly, but it's a great time to come to the downtown area, listen to some music, shop local, and support our wonderful community. Another great festival as a part of our City of Festivals. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Bierman.
Okay, so jumping off of what Councilmember Hickman said, also at this Friday Art Walk, for the first, it might even be the first time, we're going to be closing the street on Main Street because we have our Artful Inlet project that is going to be installed that night. Derek Adam, Jasmine Crawford, Laura Nelson, I'm gonna mangle this. It's either Jenna or Gina, and I apologize for not getting that right. And Rachel Stout were selected by the Norman Arts Council, the Public Arts Board, and the city to transform 5 storm drain inlets into beautiful public art. This is a program that has been done in a few places, mostly on the East Coast in the state that I grew up in, which is how I heard about this program. And I'm really excited that the city of Norman has implemented it, because now the city of Plano has decided that this is something that they are really excited about. They took a lot of inspiration from Norman, and so they are implementing this program as well. And so then on Saturday, the 13th, Norman's Environmental Control Advisory Board, OU Big Event, Norman Stormwater Division, Norman Environmental Services, and me, we will be hosting a cleanup event at Wood Creek Park, 1509 Concord Drive, from 10 a.m. to noon. Bring your hands, and that's it. We will provide the supplies. We will provide refreshments. And I am keeping my fingers crossed for a slightly better day than we are projected to have this Saturday. So You might need to bring a couple extra layers, hopefully not a rain jacket, but we're going to be cleaning up Wood Creek Park. There has been a lot of work done in some of the parks in Ward 1 in particular. I've got a couple very enterprising Ward 1 residents and our very own Karen Chapman, who is our creek fairy, who has been working extremely hard at Colonial Estates Park in particular. So we have moved this event from Colonial Estates Park to Wood Creek. And Susan Smith, my wonderful Ward 1 resident who is out there every single day. I don't know how she does it. And then on April 25th, as you heard earlier today, there is going to be an accessibility and visitability seminar at the Central Library. Our very own Councilmember Sarita Wilson is going to be talking about the ad hoc committee that myself, Councilmember Hickman, and Councilmember Wilson have been helping to coordinate to talk about accessibility and visitability here in Norman, and potentially some programs that we can work on in that regard. So, and then I do have some other comments. I could talk about the sources in Jewish law and the Mishnah and the Talmud that inform Jewish perceptions and stances on abortion, but I'm not going to do that. I'm also going to talk about the hate crime, the act of terrorism that occurred in our city last week. I happened to have been scrolling through my Facebook feed and found some early pictures of that. And I was only 3 minutes away from Lions Park. So I immediately drove over there and was just, I was just dumbstruck. I am so thankful that Mary Catherine Long pulled into the parking lot a couple minutes after that, because I simply burst into tears and cried into her shoulder for about 5 minutes. And then I got mad. And then I decided to get to work. So I went over to the Cleveland County Democratic Party headquarters, where the vandalism was extensive and was going to be difficult to clean. But you cannot do something like that in a city where 2 council members own doggy daycare, because not 2 minutes up the road, I had power washers, scrubbers, bleach, and Pine Sol. And so then I put the call out on Facebook, and we had probably 15 volunteers show up at the Cleveland County Democratic Party headquarters within the matter of 30 minutes. And within 2 hours, we had it totally clean. To the point where the news stations and the newspaper were struggling to get pictures as fast as possible, and actually took my pictures because we had it cleaned up so fast, and they were not expecting that when they arrived, to see 2 council members and more than a dozen community volunteers on their hands and knees using razor blades to scrape paint off of windows, using power washers, and washing it all away. And then, as Council Member Clark mentioned, not too many hours after that, we had a very healing rally at the park later that night. And I'm not going to say that we did it perfectly, because we didn't. It is hard to put something like that together in such a short period of time. There was some miscommunication and failure to read more than simply the name of an organization. But we were also willing to address that head on. And so I think we are all better off for it. But the post that I shared that morning, I was simply trying to get some volunteers to come out and help. In the end, that post was shared more than 9,500 times. And with it came a very difficult crash course in white nationalist lingo. Their dog whistles, their call signs, the words and terms that they use to kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm here standing in solidarity with you, believing the same things that you do. I scrubbed as many of those off of the post as I could for the other people and their mental health who were going to be looking at that post. What I could not scrub away were the dozens upon dozens of private messages that I received for simply being the one sharing this post. And I mean, the terms that were used and the words that were thrown at me were unlike anything I have experienced in my entire life. They were hateful. They were vile. They were anti-Semitic. They were racist. They were misogynistic. And they came over and over and over again in very, very similar form to one another, which makes me think that this post was shared on a couple of the white nationalist pages that still have not yet been scrubbed off of social media. So that to say, while we had a wonderful rally, while we did everything we could in that moment to address this issue, We have systemic problems in Norman, in Oklahoma, and across the United States when it comes to these kinds of issues. And so I know that Councilmember Clark has been talking about some ally training, and I have been in touch with B'nai Israel in Oklahoma City and also the Greater Jewish Federation about involving them in some allyship training and some ways that Norman residents can become better versed in these kinds of call signs and dog whistles and wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm here and I believe the same things you do, so that we all can recognize these types of signs when we see it and we can face it head on. Because until you've received the comments that I've received, I don't think anyone can really understand exactly how prevalent this line of thinking is, not just here in Norman, not just here in Oklahoma, but it came from across the country. So all we can do is focus on what we can do here in Norman. And I will absolutely work with Councilmember Clark to make sure that we tackle this head on and provide any Norman resident who's interested with the tools that they need to combat this kind of terroristic white nationalist sentiment that is clearly way more prevalent than I ever imagined. So this has been a very difficult few weeks. Last week was kind of the icing on the cake. We had a difficult election on Tuesday, and then to wake up Wednesday morning and encounter what we encountered. But we're going to tackle it head on. We're going to do what we can to fight it. And I hope that all of you will be engaged with me in it, because this was quite the lesson. And I don't want anyone else to be the target of these kinds of messages the way I was.
Thank you. Council members have covered a number of things, that important events and things that have gone on in the last week and things that are going to be happening. I do want to go back to the election. We had 3 propositions that we put before our citizens. They were all really important. They were all about critical infrastructure needs for our community. Of course, we were all very happy that the transportation bond passed. They were all important projects, all part of our master plan. Of course, we were also very disappointed about Proposition 2 and Proposition 3. Proposition 2 was badly, badly needed infrastructure, $60 million worth of infrastructure. And the utility is what we need. The Proposition 3, the utility is what we need for maintenance. Clearly, with all the efforts we made, we were unable to get across to the public in Norman the importance of these needs. And these needs are not going to go away. Most cities pay for these infrastructure needs either through bonds or through utilities. There are precious few other ways in Oklahoma that we can pay for them. And our sales tax, which is the primary way that we fund our cities, is not sufficient. That being said, we made an enormous effort to educate our public. And I want to personally thank all the people that worked on this. I won't name them all. I won't have you all listen to the whole roster, because it was really a lot of people, but particularly our Stormwater Citizen Committee, the 16 people that met for off and on for over 22 months. Our staff that helped out and did an amazing job on all the literature. They did 30 meetings. We've done open houses. We've done so many things. The citizens that worked on, and it wasn't just our stormwater staff, because we had people in communications. We had Annalise helping out, and we had Bryce helping out, and lots of others, Anthony and Catherine and Mary, and lots of other people that were helping out with that project. And then there was our campaign committee and the Sierra Club and the Chamber and the Downtowners and the League of Women Voters, all who put efforts into this. So I'm saying all this. I know sometimes I sound like the school principal I used to be and a little bit lectury, but I just want to express to our citizens. These are needs that are not going to go away. Flooding endangers our citizens. Our water quality is compromised right now. And so I don't see any other thing except the council continuing to work on this and the citizens, and we had a lot of them helping out this time, citizens rallying and continuing that education effort until we can get all of the people in our city to understand this is something that's worth funding and that we have some way that is acceptable. So thank you. Thank everybody for coming tonight. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.